Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. Great to be back with you for another week. We're just a week away from our live show at Canterbury Leagues Club. More details to come on how you can be part of the party. It's going to be a wonderful day. And a host of blockbuster games to look at today as well. Welcome, Gus.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
I'm sodden and cold again. I'm over it.
Very, very wet.
Can you do something about this weather?
No, I drove to Newcastle yesterday and back in the one day, and it was teeming rain all the way up and all the way back. And here in Sydney, I'm just sick of the rain.
Completely over it. Wettest winter in history. Must be. I'll tell you who else it's very wet for. The great Royce Simmons, Gus.
Yeah, he's on the walk.
He's doing his amazing trek. He covers an enormous amount of ground each year. So this is the fourth annual Big Walk, Royce's Big Walk, that helps to raise money for the Royce Simmons Foundation, which raises funds and awareness into research around dementia. So this year it's Penrith to Mudgee. He's on day 8. From Camp Flat to Rylstone. Do you know where they are?
Yep.
Over the mountain somewhere?
Yep.
So Freddie walked yesterday.
Said he was going to walk.
Carrying some chafe, I believe, today.
Paul Gallen walked. He did the Penrith to Blackheath part of it, which is pretty hilly.
That's challenging.
Yeah, that's the hilly part of the whole trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Brad Fittler was going out to walk. When he walks 2 hours every day, Royce. This is nothing for him.
He's a genius.
He does it all day, every day. He loves it.
Yeah. So day 9 tomorrow, Thursday, Rylstone to Havilah, and then day 10, Havilah to Mudgee, where he will arrive at Glen Willow Oval ahead of Penrith's clash with the Raiders, which we'll talk about later. But it's an amazing effort by Royce. He's just... well, you know better than anyone how tough a man he is. You should go to the Royce Simmons Foundation website. You can donate money or you can buy virtual steps. I actually bought a couple of virtual steps before we came on air here today. So it helps to contribute financially towards a wonderful cause. But it says a lot about Royce Simmons that since he's been diagnosed with this terrible illness, I think it's probably about 5 years ago, that rather than sitting back and lamenting it all, he's gone out and done something about it.
It's the way he's always had his life, mate. He takes things on. He runs towards the challenge. He has done his whole career, his whole life.
Yep. Good on you, Royce. Keep trekking, as they say. And no doubt he'll get a great reception when he arrives at Glen Willow Oval on Friday. Do you reckon when they put the schedule together at the start of the year, they could have possibly realised how many tickets they'd sell to this game in Mudgee? They could put it at any ground in the world and sell it out.
As I said to 100% Footy the other night, it should be on free-to-air television. All the rugby league public should have access to this game. And they would have known a month ago it was going to be a blockbuster. They could have easily changed it to Sunday afternoon, which would have suited everyone in the country and suited everyone watching on TV. But we don't have that flexibility these days, unfortunately. But, free-to-air products should always be preserved for those people that can't afford other forms of communication, other forms of entertainment. But to see the Panthers, the 4-time defending premiers, up against this year's competition leaders, the Canberra Raiders, to be positioned at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, that's just not good for our game, is it? In any way, shape or form.
No. It's good for the Mudgee locals, though.
Mudgee love it out there. Kenny Sutcliffe's been ringing me quite regularly, actually, because they've got such great facilities out there now, and Bulldogs, we're considering taking a camp out there during the off-season and taking advantage of those facilities. I love going to the country areas. I love going to Tamworth and Dubbo. And
Mudgee's beautiful.
Mudgee's a beautiful town. Been there a few times. Obviously called some games at Glen Willow Stadium out there. The facilities,
how good's the ground out there?
Facilities are excellent, absolutely excellent. And a beautiful little country town. Beautiful.
Kenny's got a way of knowing who's in town. Because a couple of times I've been out to Mudgee, the phone's rung and it's Ken. I hear you're in town. Like, how did you know that? He must have his spies.
Yep.
Great man, Kenny Sutcliffe. Our live show next week. Now, we've had an unprecedented response after we launched this last week, Gus. We've had emails coming in from everywhere. The people that want to be part of the live audience. Next Thursday, August 28th, from 2 p.m. at Canterbury Leagues Club. It's before the Bulldogs-Panthers game. Another cracker. So to be there, send your best AskGus questions through to sixtackles@9.com.au for a chance to come along. There are still limited seats available. I think we might had to have get some extra chairs in there because people are so keen to come along. So in your email, put in your full name and your phone number, and we'll get back to those of you that win. And it is presented thanks to Tab, as this week, this podcast is each and every week. So Canterbury Leagues Club next week for our live show if you'd like to be part of it. Plenty to talk about on today's podcast. Let's rip into it. Are we in the auditorium or something? Have they got an auditorium at Canterbury Leagues? What have you got out there?
Yeah, got a couple of auditoriums.
A couple?
Yeah. We've got a couple of bigger areas. We've got sports lounge. We've got,
I think the sports lounge would suit us.
Sports lounge, yeah.
Right next to the tap machine.
Could well be. Someone sent me an agenda for the afternoon today. Was that the official one?
Oh, I think that was just a mooted order of events.
Yeah, 1 p.m, guests sign in, 1:20, Gus and Matt arrive. Photographer to follow you around for photo with listeners and tab and agency clients.
Right.
So we're going to the tab, are we?
I think so.
Yeah. And 2 p.m. start show, full rundown with guests and ask questions. 3 p.m. show finish and prize giveaway.
Yeah.
3:30 photographer to leave.
Then we're welcome to leave with
4:30 p.m. the bar stays open till 4:30 p.m.
We've got to work. Well, I've got to go and call the game.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be a great day. So 6 tackles at 9.com.au for your chance to come along. Gus, Parramatta will be finals contenders next season.
Well, it's hard to rate anyone as a non-finals contender next season. I think the obvious for everyone is the improvement in the Parramatta side this year since the start of this season. And their early rounds, which were very, very difficult for them and the new coach coming in, but he's obviously had a great effect and some younger players are really starting to come to the fore. You can see it in their play in both attack and defence, that the systems that have been put in place and the belief that they have in them, and they're being very, very competitive. And, if you can do that and build on that, then everyone's a chance of making the finals next year. I've made this comment a number of times over the last month or so. The teams that are currently at the bottom of our ladder are stronger than the teams at the bottom of the ladder in previous years by a long way. I just think that right at the moment, anyone is capable of beating anyone in the competition just on their day. And there are a lot of factors that go into winning a football game, and you don't always get everything right every time you play. But, even the top sides really have to keep their wits about them playing the bottom sides, and the quality of games between the bottom sides. I mean, the South Sydney Parramatta game the other night was terrific entertainment, great game of footy from two teams that are down towards the bottom of the ladder. So I think the quality of those teams has improved, and next year and in the next couple of years, as we get a new teams introduced and the talent level gets thinned out again a little bit more, it's going to make things extremely even. It's hard to predict where any team will be in the next 12 months.
With respect to Parramatta, though, it's important to note that they were without Mitchell Moses for the first third of the year.
Absolutely. Well, it's the same with the Roosters without Sam Walker. It's they're real challenges. And in the salary cap world and in the way the talent levels are these days, you lose your main player. It's a real problem to get, particularly if he's a playmaker. It's a real problem to get over. That's why, how much you spend on particular players in different salary caps is very, very important. We talk about that a lot. But Mitchell Moses makes a huge difference to them. Sam Walker makes a huge difference to the Roosters. And any team that loses their major playmaker is going to be up against it for a period of time. Makes a big difference when they come back. But Parramatta are building nicely. There's some good kids there, and what I like most about is their attitude in defence and the structures and the principles that they're consistently doing. Going back 6 or 8 weeks ago, just looking some of their attacking play, they were moving the ball well, and then they were looking to have some short side down, raids down short blind sides and different things they were doing, and they weren't getting it right. But they persevered. They knew they were on the right track. They just weren't executing in games. Now they're starting to execute a little bit in games and points are coming. That builds to confidence. You have another off-season of that and another off-season under the coach. Yeah, why can't Parramatta make an 8 run at the 8 next year? But they've got to do everything right between now and then as well.
Yep. They play the Roosters this week as well. Saturday night footy on the Roosters. Gee, they're playing good football. I mean, you kind of flag this when they get the big guns back in, that they can really make a run towards the back part of the year. And they're another team that started poorly. Well, they got flogged in round 1. You could have imagined they'd be near the finals.
Well, they got flogged in round 1. They beat the Panthers in round 2.
38-34, and the weirdest game ever.
They had that little bit of inconsistency in the early part of the year as they developed some of the younger fellas and as they started to trust the younger ones more and trust them with more time out there. And that's, they need time at the crease. They just need time out there in the middle to learn. That's where you develop most. you can only do so much on the training paddock. You can do your physical stuff and your mental stuff and all that, but experience and games, game savvy and all that sort of thing makes a big difference. And they started to get a bit of a roll on. And then Sam Walker comes back, who's a point-scoring, points-producing machine. When he has a good day, well, they're very, very hard to beat. And their season's not over yet. I mean, they'll be hard to beat in any game they play for the rest of the year.
Oh, they're quality. They're so exciting to watch at the moment. All right, well, the first question on Parramatta for next year, the next one's on the Dragons for this year. They have wasted a chance to play finals.
No. Well, I object to the word wasted. I don't think they've wasted anything. I think they've tried. There was an opportunity for them to play finals football. I think they're a finals football quality side.
Is squandered a better word?
Probably not squandered. Probably things didn't go their way at the right time, and they didn't nail the moments that they wanted. And how many times have they been beaten narrowly? They've had golden point losses and 1 point losses and 2 point losses.
I think it's 8 games by 8 points or less.
Yeah, they were still in the running last week and had the Warriors beaten all ends up. They had the Warriors beaten everywhere, conceded a couple of late tries and lost that game. Now you can use the term wasted. I don't think they've wasted it. I just think that they've been on the wrong side of the bounce of the ball, and they probably haven't nailed key moments when they've needed them. And there's still some improvements that they need in their football, but they're a finals 8 quality team. We've got 17 teams in this competition now. Everyone wants what they want. There are 16 other teams want what the Dragons want, and they're out there competing every week. They're not easy to win games these days, and you got to win them over the 80 minutes. You can't relax for a moment. And even sides that are under strength or might be in good form, they can bounce back within the space of a week and put in a good performance, and that can be good enough on the day. Games in the NRL are hard to win.
I suppose the tenor of the question is they've lost so many of those close games in similar circumstances.
Yeah, perhaps. They'll probably look back on when they review at the end of the season and say, okay, well, there's an opportunity lost. There's an opportunity lost, but I think they've worked hard. I think they've worked hard on their football. There's a consistency about their football. They've got themselves into an attacking rhythm, which they believe in, and they do it every week. They don't change up much each week. Defensively, they can be very good, and at other times they can struggle a little bit, but that's and they're still on the market for players. So, I think the Dragons, they've got some terrific kids, some outstanding young talent coming through the system. Like, they really have got some outstanding young athletes, and again, it's going to take them time to be regular winners at the NRL level, but I think the future is bright.
They're actually pretty gutsy last week, given what happened to them.
Yeah. Look, they haven't thrown games away. You've had to play well to beat them, and a lot of sides have done that, but they're kind of just in that transition phase where, a couple of years ago they used to have some bad results and concede big scores, and some of their defence could be very, very ordinary, but now they're kind of fixing that up, and they're just in that little transition phase where they're competitive in every game. And sides like that, and that's the transition part you go through, you're going to play in, out of your 24 games a year, you're probably going to play in 14 or 15 that get decided by 4 points or less. 14 or 15 that go down to the wire. And you're either going to be just in front nearing full time or just behind nearing full time. And it's the balance of how many of those you can win. You need to turn all those into wins. And then you go through the next transition where your wins tend to get a little bit more comfortable on the scoreboard, which gives you a little bit more latitude. And then you start to compete with the better teams. And that's, so if you're trying to go from the cellar to the penthouse, they're the sort of transitions you go through. They're at mid-range at the moment. They're right on the level of the ladder where I guess they deserve to be right at the moment. But which way do they go from here? That's what they've got to work out, whether they go forward or whether they go backwards next year. So I've got no doubt they'll go forward. I think they're getting better. And while ever you are competitive, you see it often, in all sports, it takes a while to break through. And then when you break through, you get the confidence from it, and then you learn how to win, and you learn how to win the close ones, and then they add up. It's only 3 or 4 results during the year. If 3 or 4 of those results go their way, they're on 30 points and guaranteed to a top 8 spot.
Yep.
They're not. They've got to turn those 3 or 4 results around next year. Those games that are going to be decided by 4 points or less are so crucial. You've got to win your majority of those.
And Dragons have certainly found that out. Jye Gray is a genuine NRL match winner.
He's a beauty. He's a match saver. He's a match winner. He's abundant energy. He's tireless. The little white headgear. He's a beauty. You see where he is all over the field, and he keeps coming to the game. He's not a big man by any
He's not even 80 kilos.
No, but he is absolutely wholehearted. Every part of him, every inch of him is heart and courage. And he's terrific, the work he gets through. Like the game last week, what he was doing in attack, particularly what he was doing in defence. He saved tries. He
saved the game.
Yeah, he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And again, the more he plays first grade, the more he plays at the NRL level, the better he's going to get, the more confident he's going to get, the more confident teammates are going to become in him. He's a match winner. There's no risk in the world.
He doesn't often get out jumped at the back.
No, he's spring-heeled. He gets his run up and gets his timing right, and he's courageous. There's no. When I say courageous, I don't just mean physically. I mean he's obviously not scared of collision, and he's not scared of tackling or getting hit by bigger men. But he's courageous in his decision making. There is no hesitancy about him. There's no fear about him. So he's not second guessing himself as to whether or not he's going to make a leap for this and make the catch. Look, his eyes are on the target the whole time. When he commits himself to do something, he goes at 100 mile an hour, and more often than not, he'll get the good result. And if he happens to drop one or he happens to make a mistake, it doesn't seem to faze him. He doesn't shrink back into himself, and he doesn't go quiet for a little while. If they put it up again, he'll go for it again, that's what I talk about courage. He's got real courage of his decision-making. He's got no fear of failure. He's got no fear of the consequence of failure does not worry him whatsoever, and he keeps coming to the game. And they're lovely footballers to coach and have in your team. The ones that keep coming to the contest. It's only human nature. Some players, when things aren't going well or things are in the balance, there are some that shrink a little bit. There's shrinkers and there's growers. He's a grower. He grows. The tough.
Well, he'd like to grow a few inches.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: if you were 6 foot and 98 kilos, the game wouldn't be fair.
Yeah,
with the way he attacks it.
Who's the smallest bloke you coached?
The smallest bloke I coached? Oh, crikey.
Jeff Tuvey?
Yeah, but Jeff wasn't small. Jeff was when he first started, he was tiny.
Tiny?
Yeah, but he developed physically. By the time he came to me, he was playing Origin football. I mean, he was a strong little fella. And none of them these days, even the ones that look small on TV or look small out there, when you're actually standing alongside of them, they're not small anymore.
I saw Zach Docker Clay the other day. Like, he doesn't look like a big fella, but he's muscled up.
Yeah,
he's solid
well
fella.
Put together. He's well put together. There are some there that look a little bit slight compared to the others. I mean, there's some very big men in our game.
What about Ashton Ward from South? Honestly, it looked like he played the under-14s.
Yeah, he looks like a school kid.
He's tiny.
Yeah, but he's another one who's just a footballer. He is seriously a footballer, and he's not worried about his stature physically. He's at the game the whole time. Who did I interview earlier this year? The Cowboy fullback. Scott Drinkwater. Right, now, Scott Drinkwater, like when you look at him on the field, you think he's one of those smaller playmakers, what have you. He was far taller than me.
Yeah. So these are we've got a list here of the smallest in terms of height players in the comp. Joash Papali is the shortest?
Yeah,
seriously?
5'5". He's small. Yeah, he's small. But
I'd have thought
he's strong.
Yeah. I'd have thought Jye Gray would be much shorter than him. But there you go. Trey Fuller. There's Zach Docker Clay, 5'7".
Yep.
Then you're getting up to 5'8". Not short by any means. Joash Papali. Wow. Who's the tallest? Keep going. Whoa. Ben Takura, 6'9".
Yeah, that's big.
Haven't seen much of him this year.
Nelson Asafa Solomon, Dominic Young's Jack Clydesdale, Jason Saab, 6'6", can run like the wind. Yeah.
So, can you think of anyone tiny that you coached?
Tiny. No, not really tiny.
Can't think of anyone?
No.
I always say that I reckon man for man, Jeff Tuvey's got to be one of the toughest bloke to play the game for what he did for his body and his head.
The way he played.
And the way he played the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But they they thicken up. They do thicken up as their career goes on. You know, the more weights they're lifting, the food they're eating, and just age thickens them up a little bit. The ones that are really tiny are the younger ones that sort of come into first grade. And to be honest, we kind of protect that a little bit. We don't expose them if they haven't got that sort of attitude or constitution or that sort of mental toughness. You know, big games, big men. That's just the way we were brought up. But, you know, there's some great little footballers around.
Little Aston Ward. He's 21 years of age. Honestly, if you saw him run out in the under-15s, you wouldn't even ask for his birth certificate.
You wouldn't ask for his birth certificate. He's a little fella.
Here's a big question for you, Gus. Put him out there. Harry Grant is the second best hooker of all time.
Second best?
Yeah.
No.
What are you looking at me like that for?
Well, why is he second best?
Well, who's the best? The bloke he learnt from, I'd imagine.
Yeah. You know, back in the day, I thought Steve Walters was the best hooker I ever saw play the game. Back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the ink wasn't dry on his career, and along came a fellow called Danny Baderas. And I thought, well, we won't see anything like Danny Baderas. And the ink wasn't dry on his career, and all of a sudden this bloke Cameron Smith came along. You know, and then you thought, well, we've seen it all. It's not going to get any better than that. And then along comes Harry, who's completely different to any of them. He's a rather unique individual and rather unique sort of player. And we're a long way from the finish of his career. He's got a long way to go.
So where would he sit now?
Put it this way. Steve Walters, Danny Baderas and Cameron Smith, I think they're all mightily impressed with Harry Grant. I think they're very impressed with Harry Grant. Yeah. So we'll judge Harry at the end of it.
Right. But he's tracking well.
Tracking well. Yeah, he's looming up with a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a very, very good footballer.
I'm getting the feeling.
Not just attacking him. I mean,
yeah,
even defensively.
50 tackles a game.
Yeah, and try-saving tackles, cover defending tackles. He's pressuring kickers, you know, catching like he's
fallen over.
He's incredible. He really is.
He's falling over at the right time.
He's dictating the game. That's what good players do. They run the game. They run the game. They run the referees. They run the rules. They run the game. That's what Harry Grant is. A very, very good footballer. Very good footballer. And his career is only just getting started, to be honest.
Could he end up as the best, Gus?
100% he could. Yeah, he could. He could. I don't know where his career is going to go, but the way it's tracking, he's doing things now that those other fellas couldn't do. Trust me, he's doing things they couldn't do. Maybe they were doing things he can't do at the moment or he doesn't think to do, but he does things they couldn't do, and they would admit that.
Like what? What are those bits that you see?
His vision, his speed out of dummy half. He's, you know, every single team game planning against them are worrying about his dummy half run or his, you know, the way he manipulates the markers or his speed out of dummy half. To know it, to game plan for it, and still he does it to you, shows the mark of a really great player. And his vision, the way you watch him every time he goes to dummy half, how he's scanning the opposition. He never looks at the play of the ball. He never looks at the man playing the ball until the very last moment. He's totally scanning everything. He's looking to see who's at marker, who the first defenders off the ruck are, what's happening on the edge. He might have a call from Jerome Hughes. He might have a call from Munster. He might have a call from Pappenhausen. He's dissecting all that as he goes along, and he then decides at the last minute what to do. Cameron Smith was a wonderful game manager, brilliant game manager, and he had some pretty big names that he was playing with, the likes of Cronk and Slater and these fellas, and you know he would decipher which was the right call for the right time, and he would take his time. He was very methodical about what he did, and of the four of those fellas, he probably had the better kicking game, obviously strategic kicking game, and Cameron control the tempo of the game and the rhythm of the game, and then
refereed it.
Yeah, and he did all those things, and you know Harry's going to do that. Harry does it his own way, though. Harry's got a cheekiness to his football. He's got a brashness to his football, and he's got a speed to his game, and he's absolutely tireless. Like he's absolutely tireless.
Absolutely.
He is the same in the 79th minute as he is in the first minute.
You won it in Golden Point last week.
He can He can have 30 tackles in the space of 5 sets and then in the next set of 6 strip you open from dummy half and take advantage of a lazy marker or an offload or what have you. He's a brilliant footballer, a brilliant footballer. And he's going to make it hard for every young hooker coming through because everyone's going to want one of them. Everyone wants a Harry. They don't come along very often. But every club's going to be looking for someone who can provide some of the stuff that he provides. I've always believed, and my football was the same, like dummy half is the best place to attack from. It is the best place to attack from. And it's probably the least utilised in the game. And that's why the Melbourne Storm are so good and why they're so effective, because they're really good at it. Some of the other teams, their dummy halves are starting to take the cue, and when they do run from dummy half, their teams are better for it. But if you haven't got a dummy half attacking game, you're cutting your attack in half, I believe, your potency. You've got to have a dummy half running game. You've got to have an attacking game out of dummy half. That doesn't necessarily just mean your regular dummy half, your hooker. Every player should be able to run out of dummy half, run and pass out of dummy half. Every player should be able to do that, because there are times in a game where you just need to go. You need to take advantage of what you've done. You run your set play against their structured defence, and whatever you keep doing that, we tend to have evenness, right? So it's what the set play is for, not to score the try, is to destabilise or disrupt their defensive line for a little bit. So for that tackle, the markers might be in the wrong place, or they can't quite get the numbers on the short side or the long side, or they're a little bit slow to get off or they're retreating when the ball's been played because you've got to quick play the ball. That's what you've got to take advantage of right there, because if you don't, you miss that opportunity. The teams with the Harry Grants in their side don't miss those opportunities. They don't miss. They will disrupt you with their ball running and their quick play the balls and what have you, looking for that unscripted moment, that unplanned moment where Harry just goes bang, and Jerome Hughes or Pappenhausen or Munster just tap into it. And that's why they're a point-scoring machine. They are a point-scoring machine.
So he could be the best. He could be the best ever. Well, that's my headline.
I'm not writing that off. I'm not writing that off at all. It's very, very hard because Cameron Smith is most recent in our minds. But like I said to you, I thought Steve Walters, I'd never see one better. And Danny Baderas come along, I thought, well, that's it. We'll never see one better. And then along comes Cameron, and you think, well, that's it. We've seen the best. And then Harry Grant comes along. Harry's untapped.
You're right about his running. He's a dynamic ball runner. Cam wasn't a dummy half runner.
It doesn't even have to be a quick play the ball, and the markers don't even have to be disrupted. He beats them anyway. He beats them anyway. He's electric, and he's smart, and he's doing a lot of his work before he picks up the ball. That's the beauty of him. He's so. I would say that probably he doesn't even know what he's doing or why he's doing it a lot of the time, but he's just the way he...
Scheming. He's a schemer.
The way he comes into the ball, the way he reacts, it's hard to get a prediction on where he's going to go. With a lot of dummy halves when they run, they predominantly favour one way at one time on one tackle off one play the ball, and you can sort of see it coming. It's called ruck recognition. You've got to constantly have your eyes on the ruck, the speed of the play the ball, and who's playing the ball, and the dynamic of how he plays the ball and how the dummy half. Some of these dummy halves in the competition, they run off the same play the ball every time. Harry doesn't. Harry can run off slow play the balls, quick play the balls. Any player in the team that plays the ball, he's got no set pattern to what he does. He can run left and he can run right. Some can't run both ways. Some they don't even know they're doing it. They favour it. They run left. Cameron Smith ran 99% left when he ran. 99%. But Cameron Smith wasn't a big running game. That wasn't the big feature of his game at all. That wasn't the big feature of his game. Baderas had it. Baderas could go both sides. He could taunt the markers and do all that. Steve Walters was just strong. He was just a strong player when he ran the ball, but he mainly went left.
Benny Elias won't be happy to have mentioned him, particularly given you've mentioned Steve Walters.
Well, Benny was the old version of Harry. Yeah, if Benny had the full-time professionalism and the full-time training and playing with the types of players that, and the football the way it is today, the fields the way they are, the footballs the way they are. I mean, to compare it. But Benny was probably an old style Harry Grant back in the day.
He was a groundbreaker in that position, wasn't he?
He was. He was different to everyone else of his era, But and a lot of his career come through a 5 metre rule too.
That's true, yeah.
You know, where the dummy halves weren't getting a lot of space and what have you, and there was a lot of gang tackling in the play of the ball, a lot of slow play of the balls, and there was raking for the ball in the play of the balls, and the footballs weren't that great and the fields weren't that great, so you weren't getting a nice flow. They weren't rolling the ball like they do today in the play of the ball, so it's a nice even pick up for the man at the dummy half. It's football was different back then, but skill-wise and attitude-wise, Benny had a very similar attitude to the game as what Harry Grant has. But don't underestimate this kid, mate. He's as good as it gets.
Underestimate him, man. I'm not underestimating him one bit. He's a freak.
Yeah.
In fact, calling that game last week, I might have even said during the call, because he'd been so dominant in the month leading, and he didn't have that influence on the game because Penrith were kind of winning in the middle of the ground, yet he comes up with a match-winning play. And once a coach, always a coach. Gus, did you hear what he said? He had lunch with Roy Masters, who told him, make sure, if it goes to a field goal, if you get the chance to run.
Yeah, 2 match-winning plays.
Well, that's true. It's true.
2 match-winning plays he had.
It's very true. Which is a nice segue, actually, because I was hunting around for some interesting stuff to throw at you today. And there's many thought bubbles that are thrown up towards the back end of a season. But one that caught my eye, it's been reported that as part of an off-season review, the NRL may consider yellow cards for divers, Gus. 10 in the bin for diving. Soccer style. So my question is, if situations like last Thursday are kind of allowed to slide because the referees don't think he took a dive, then how are we going to determine who gets a yellow card or not?
You're not honestly going to ask me to respond to that.
Yellow cards for divers.
No. No.
Great idea.
No.
How good. I want to see the referee pull out the yellow.
What was that in the media?
Yeah.
Must have been a slow news day.
Oh, tell me about it. I thought that'd be so funny. And then we could have the blokes rolling around like a soccer player.
Well, we've created it. We've created the environment for the diver to do well. The diver gets his rewards in our game.
Yellow card.
Sit there and hold their head and they hold the back of their neck and get the bunker to have a look at it, and the bunker goes, well, gee, if I don't give the penalty, it's inconsistency. I gave one earlier or they gave one last week. They've got themselves in a terrible mess with all that stuff. And as the games become more important, as penalty goals become more important, as 6 agains become more important, as the results become vital at the back end of the game, trust me, there'll be divers, there'll be actors, there'll be all sorts of things. And then they're going to be put to the test.
If you get
and the stuff that they were penalising earlier in the year, all of a sudden they'll stop penalising it. And people will go, well, there you go, there's the inconsistency. So why were they doing it earlier in the year?
I just wanted to wind him up. If you get 2 yellow cards for diving, do you get a red?
I don't know how the card system works. That's a
2 yellows equals a red.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why do they have that in soccer, do they?
That's a soccer rule. Yeah.
It's one of they end up with any players on the field. Everyone takes a dive.
Dive-a-thon, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to see
they have it in rugby now too, don't they? Do they have yellow cards in rugby?
That's your sin bin. Yeah.
Right.
When the red card is sent off.
No, please.
It's just symbolic.
Please,
the ref feels powerful when he pulls out the big red.
Please. It's a funny game, really. funny. The stuff that's crept into our game. And it comes in waves. All of a sudden, you don't see or hear of any particular thing. And all of you see one, and next thing we get a string of them. Because don't start me.
Gus, they're saying as many as 28 top players are sidelined because of injury this weekend. 28. Is the season? Well, I think you're on record as saying the season's too long. How far is it too long? It's 27 weeks. It's a grueling campaign. And what can the game do to try and keep some of these star players on the park longer? Like it must be impossible to keep them up the whole time.
Yeah, look, there's a really intricate answer to this question, which is going to take me over a lot of ground that we've covered in the past. And I just don't think that our ground and our schedules and our competition and the rules we have around training now and all these sorts of things, I think they counterbalance each other. I think that we don't put enough thought, or the game doesn't put enough thought into the actual athlete and what they're demanding him to do. From competition perspective, I don't think we need 27 weeks and 24 games to find the best 8 sides in the competition to then find the winner of the competition. I really don't. During the course of your season, you have 5-day turnarounds, 6-day turnarounds, 7-day turnarounds, 8-day turnarounds, 10-day turnarounds, 3-week turnarounds. I mean, we have all different types of spacing. There's travel to Townsville, there's travel to New Zealand, there's travel to Perth, there's travel to Melbourne. There's sides that don't do a lot of travel, but they do a lot of, all your preparations are different. Then you get a year like this, particularly here in Sydney, where we've had this deluge for what seems like ages. Like our fields have been so wet. Our training, what you understand, they're not getting training. They're not getting enough training into themselves during the week because the fields are so wet, and you've got to worry about the load in what they're doing. And and our rosters are getting spread thin. So you've got young fellas coming in that aren't really seasoned or hard enough for this and can't play too many in a row and haven't been through the grind of week in, week out football, home and away football or what have you. And and it wears on everybody in different ways. It's really a marathon at the moment, and it's really a testing, and that's why they have so many people working in medical and physiotherapy and sports science, and while we're trying to help the players with nutrition and diets and mental preparation and all the staff now that's created in your thing just to try and keep your best players healthy and on the field every week. Because as we've seen, if you haven't got your best players on the field, it's hard to compete. It's extremely hard to compete. That's even aside from the serious injuries. Your bone breaks, your fractures and your knee injuries and your shoulder injuries, etc., which are very commonplace. The change in tackling techniques, the change in the rules, the tackle, the margin of error in tackles these days is so small. HIAs and how we treat those now and the protocols around all of those makes it very, very hard to keep people on the field. And facilities, training facilities, and they're all factors. Every one of them is a factor in the length of the season and in, I guess, some of the injuries that we're getting at the moment. Some of the injuries are just bad luck. Broken bones are bad luck. You get hit the wrong way at the wrong time. That's always going to happen. But injuries that are born out of, fatigue and other areas and having to play with injuries because you're short on troops and, it's always been an issue. But I just – and the other side of this, of course, is, how I see the importance of the representative part of the season and the international game and having a calendar of events for those. So I think we're far too demanding on the players, and I don't think we support it enough with an understanding of what the players need to actually train and maintain their body to complete at this level for such a long period of time. We're still playing rep football until November, at the end of November this year, and then we're going to give them holidays and bring them back later next year. And it's not really enough preparation. You're going to want, trial games in February, and then you want to go to Vegas in February and March. And there are a lot of things that have been added into our game. Some was good, so more must be better. We must have more games, and we must have this. And travel is a big thing. Recovery is a big thing. Facilities are a big thing. Training grounds are a big thing.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, because we're fortunate in your position at Canterbury that you can give us an insight into this. So when you get your schedule at the start of the year, does the football department all sit down and do you map out your prep pretty much season long, depending on where you're playing, where you're travelling, your turnarounds and stuff?
Coaches do, yeah. Of course they do.
So the whole season up front?
Well, pretty much the whole lot of it, yeah, because you've got to book flights, you've got to book accommodations, you've got to work out, when we're going to get breaks, anticipate what representative football. For the Bulldogs this year, we had a greater representation than we'd had in previous years. Plus, we also had this thing now where they take 22 players into camp. So, your Jacob Prestons and your Jacob Kirazes were off in playing with those. And, there are some sides like your Panthers and your Melbournes and that have been dealing with it for years, your Broncos. But when you get a club that's rising a little bit and coming through the ranks like the Bulldogs, individual players get recognised more. So that's something they probably didn't account for this year was the physical demand of that and the demand on the roster for that type of thing as well. And there's a whole range of things with this, Matthew. And the only place you're going to prepare and develop NRL footballers is an NRL program, but you haven't got the time or the facilities or the space to be having 45 blokes training together as an NRL squad every day. The coaches need to have their players that are playing and regularly and that are important. So parents, player managers, players think that if they're not training in that squad, they're not being developed or what have you. You go around and ask all the recruitment people and all the coaches, and it's hard to manage everyone's expectations and to give them the training that they need and to give them the development that they need. I don't think the game puts enough thought into the pathways model. I don't think it recognises it enough. I think it's, our lower grades are played in parks nowadays in front of family and friends and nobody else. They don't really get the grounding that they used to get.
What would you like to see that look like? I think everyone would like to see that pathways and the lower grades actually be recognised like it's a development channel.
Well, they should be. They should be, but that comes to scheduling and the fact that it's run by the QRL and the New South Wales Rugby League and not the National Rugby League and, the emergence of the women's game and the profile they're trying to give that as well as running it as curtain raisers to NRL games as well. It's all sort of been pushed on to the clubs very, very quickly and to be honest, I don't think a great deal of thought put behind it, but there's, as a football club, the amount of time that they actually spend working on their scheduling, working on their training, what's needed, recovery times and all that sort of thing is phenomenal. And that's why we've had to have more expertise in those areas. That's why your staff levels have increased incredibly since the advent really much of full-time professionalism. And I don't think our game has really understood full-time professionalism until probably the last 10 or 12 years ago, even though money-wise they were full-time, since the 90s. But full-time professionalism, I think clubs have become very, very good at it. The good clubs have become very, very good at it over probably the last decade. And it's the good clubs, and that's why the cream keeps rising to the top every year. And it's an important part of your program. So is the season too long? I think we play too many club games. I don't think we play enough rep games, and I think the rep games are played at the wrong time of year. But that's a scheduling issue that can only be done if you've got one governing body for rugby league worldwide, which we don't. And we also keep trying to compromise and we keep trying to expand and we keep trying to do things that where I don't think we give priority to the really important things. The RLPA has its view on these types of things, which I don't think are conducive with the way that the coaches and the high-performance people think about preparations and those levels. You've got players, remember, in our game that are 36, 37 years of age, and you've got kids that are 18 years of age. They don't train the same. They don't think the same. They're not the same. They're not the same animal. And you've got everything in between at different stages of their career.
It's interesting, actually, because we've often talked about, and you in particular, about playmakers getting better as they get older. You can look at DCE, for instance, who's barely missed a game. He's at the end of his career, but is never injured, and players are playing older, yet we've got all these injuries at the moment in the game. So it'd be interesting if you had a look at a demographic cross-section of that probably, off the top of your head, you think they'd be younger players?
You're going to have injuries.
Yeah.
It's a contact sport, it's a collision sport. You're going to have those collision-type contact injuries, but when you're getting soft tissue issues, when you get, and you're getting injuries, we're diagnosing injuries more, right, than we used to. We're more conservative with treatments than we used to be. Where players get a hell of a lot more information about injuries than they used to get.
Do you think we're being too conservative?
I think I don't think today's players play with the injuries these days that they used to play with back in previous eras. And I think, it's just my opinion. If you go and ask some of the older coaches that have been around a while, I think they would agree. The game's changed remarkably, in that respect.
But does a player get a say in whether they play injured?
You look at the team that leads the competition this year, the Canberra Raiders, who at the start of the year no one was expecting them to be at the top of the competition. I think, and I'll be pretty sure, they've used less players than any team in the competition.
I'm fairly sure that's right.
I think they've probably only used 22, and even a few of those wouldn't have played a lot. They've pretty much gone through unchanged. And in Panthers' run of the premierships and everything that they've had over the last few years,
very settled.
Their players were at a very good age. They were still young, relatively young, but seasoned, and very few injuries to the core group of that group for a long period of time. And that's, you could just get that little window of opportunity. But like I say, we've got players at 36, 37 years of age and kids coming in at 18 years of age and everything in between, and some that have played, 10 games and some that have played 300 games. And it's, you can't focus training around all of them unless you do it individually. And recovery times, times between games, times between seasons, conditions. We start the year in very hot weather. we come into the wet season. We'll finish the year in warm weather again. You know, there's a whole things that our sports science people have got to get their heads around. Sports science is, it's interesting to go and talk to the senior coaches about the value of sports science, where it gives us a lot of information, but that can also be counterproductive at times as well. And as I say, they err on the side of conservatism. Time out for injuries now is a lot more than it used to be. You know,
it feels that way.
Recovery time, you know, like, well, ACL injuries, for instance. ACL injuries, when we first have it, they used to be back in 6 months. Now they're sort of saying 9 months, you know, to recover fully from an ACL injury. Now, maybe that gives you less chance of repeat, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk. What I'd love to do is talk to someone in high performance and get their opinion on it. But I know that our coaches, they deal with this every day. So at the start of the season, they get their draw and they will spend a month going through the scheduling for the next 12 months. But then they've got to think on their feet all the way through that, depending on the makeup of the team, the travel, the weather, the amount of training they can get into them, the injuries, et cetera, et cetera. Everything changes, you know. And that's why they're hard to win, because you need that settled season where, you know, you're not getting a lot of injuries, you get consistency of your troops. You've got to have some talented depth to give the odd bloke a rest here and there and to blood some players and get them ready for the future. You've got to give players time at the crease to get them better and accustomed to first-grade football. And then you want to get to the back end of the season, August, September, where your best players are on the field, fit and well and ready to go to make a tell of the competition. They're not easy to win, mate.
No,
that's what's made, you know, the Panthers' performances over the last 5 years so extraordinary, and the likes of your Melbournes and Roosters that have been at the top of the table for a long, long time. They've been in and around. Others sort of fluctuate a lot, and they fluctuate wildly. And they might have their 1 or 2 good years. Like Parramatta made a grand final, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
23?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
22.
22, yeah, so 3 years ago, but haven't been cited.
Haven't played the final since.
Haven't played in the final since. So, you know, sometimes you can get there if you have the good year and you get the run of luck and you get the, you know, and the players are at the right age and they don't get the injuries or what have you, and they've had good preparation around it. But, you know, a lot of things can tear that down very, very quickly and tear your roster down very, very quickly. And it's only going to get diluted more. Like over the next 12 months, all we're going to hear about is players signing for Perth or players potentially going off to PNG and players moving clubs. And then those clubs are going to have to replace those players. So they're going to delve in and they're going to go out and buy kids that aren't quite ready for NRL yet and haven't had the training. And then your senior players are going to go back to back to back to back with representative seasons that don't end until November, and they're going to do minimal off-season training, which is only going to come back to bite them during the course of the season. Then we're going to back them up for Origins. Then we're going to back them up for other things as well. It's, the game has been hurtling a lot. Don't get me wrong, the game's great. The players and the coaches do an outstanding job. The product is great at the moment, aside from a few of the officiating stuff. But, you know, we get by that. We get past that anyway. But someone needs to take a deep breath and think about what we're actually doing to our product and what we're doing to the players, because it's not easy, mate. And if what you're telling me, the game is recognised it's in the middle of an injury crisis, well, you know, some of that's just bad luck and some of it's bad management.
So just confirming, you're anti the yellow card for the diving.
Don't even bring it up again. If you bring that up again, I'll walk out that door. You bring that up again, I'll walk out the door.
I thought that'd give you a laugh.
My time is done.
Time for Ask Gus. The NRL season is here. For the best time in sport, Tab has the very best app in sport. Tab, we are on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Coming into the good racing, you know. Saw some good races down in Melbourne at the weekend. You wouldn't know with the weather.
No. Well, all these horses are going to be trialling on heavy tracks. I mean, you know, tracks aren't open. It's terrible.
So, sorry, you mentioned if it's raining, like you don't get as much training load into the players on the field. So do you sort of stay away from heavy ground for your field sessions if it's really wet?
Yeah, you should, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and depending on what your facilities are like. Not everyone's got great facilities, you know, and particularly for our lower grades, our pathways things. Like we can't allow them to train on the main deck at Belmore Oval because we closed that for the NRL side and we don't want to chop the ground up too much. But there are no other facilities to train them.
So what do you do with them?
Well, that's right. What do we do with them? They don't get the training in that they need. They don't get the development that they need. We go around, well, you know, junior sport. You know, it's only got two spits on a cigarette paper and they close everything down. They close the grounds down, you know. And, we've got a new $50 million centre of excellence to be built at Belmore over the next, 18 months or so, and construction will start later this year. And that's going to affect our access to training fields. And that we've been looking for 6 months for alternative venues to be able to train pathways teams and women's teams and NRL teams if Belmore's not right. Belmore's not 100% right for training at the moment, but it's the only ground we've got to train on. We go across and we use the New South Wales Centre of Excellence sometimes, but there are demands on there and on those times. And there aren't many really good wet weather grounds around. We don't want to go to the point of training on synthetic surfaces because the jury's out onto whether or not that's productive or non-productive, etc. It's all right for recreational games and it's all right for junior sport, but at this level, do we want them training on those sort of facilities? I don't know. I haven't got the data on that to make a decision, and there are very, very few of them available, even if you wanted to. But when you're compromising your training and your preparation, then you are further at the risk of injury and inconsistent form. No risk in the world, but it's. And that's, our game stretches from Townsville to Melbourne, and it's soon going to stretch across to Perth, and it stretches from Penrith to the East Coast and
don't forget Port Moresby
down to Canberra and Newcastle and all that. And every one of them might have different weather for a different week, and it's so some teams are getting better preparations than others. Some teams are getting more consistent training than others. Then it comes down to the injury situation, and that's why the teams fluctuate. It's hard to be really consistent, which adds even more merit to your Melbourne Storms and your Panthers and your Roosters and those sort of time-honoured teams that are always at the top.
Just ring. I'm sure Para or the West Tigers will lend you a training field. Just give them a buzz.
I'm sure they won't.
Just give them a buzz.
Yeah, I'm sure
they'll be right.
Yeah.
Now,
Parramatta's built a beautiful new facility out at Kellyville.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, brilliant new
They've got 1 million fields out there.
4 fields.
You can rent a couple off of them.
It made a huge difference to us at Penrith when we built the academy out there, and it sort of lit a fire under everyone because everyone wants them and they've got them, and training fields are hard. Particularly for pathways, but even for NRL at times, getting quality training facilities is not easy. The eastern suburbs clubs, Easters and Souths and Rooster, because the Sydney area is more sand-based and they tend to be better on, the fields tend to drain better than some of the fields elsewhere. And it costs a lot of money to renovate your ground. Like we've had a quote for Belmore for $1.6 million just to renovate the surface to get it, up to modern-day standards for water and all that sort of thing as well. And then you might go and do that, and it mightn't rain for 3 years. All of a sudden we'll have a drought, and we need a desalination plant, and it's never going to rain again.
Desalination plant.
We're all going to die of water. The dam's down to 40%.
Doesn't that look like a waste of money at the moment?
Yeah. Well, one minute the dam's down to 40%. We're never going to be able to drink water or water. And next thing we need another 20 metres on top of the water.
I know.
The dam.
We've spilt it 10 times in the last 6 months.
Otherwise, we're flooding out the whole western area.
All right, back to AskGus, thanks to Tab. Now, Chris Donovan, I don't know whether he's a Manly fan, but man, has he opened up a hornet's nest here. At what stage does Manly rip the Trebojevic Band-Aid off? They'll cop huge backlash, but they can't be held to ransom because they're good guys. Neither of them are worth more than $300K anymore. That's if you want to use a roster spot on them in 2027, assuming it doesn't improve. How about that?
Yeah, he's fired off.
Neither of them are worth $300K, more than $300K anymore.
Yeah, well, I'd argue with that. Yeah, it's hard. Roster management is hard. And you've got to understand that Father Time waits for no one. Father Time's undefeated, and every player at some stage, and some, as we said, some play well into their 30s, others, back in the old days, back in my days, when you started to get to 30, you started to lie about your age because at 30 you were sort of done. Yeah, that's a difficult one. They're two great players, two great blokes. The whole Manly side is struggling at the moment. I don't know where their roster and their salary cap is. The Trebojevic boys are such passionate and they've been a great performance for the Manly club. And then that gets that point, well, if you leave it up to them to retire, when do they do it?
But Tom is on record as being, and I'm sure they both are, but he's incredibly selfless when it comes to
Absolutely.
this. He's aware that he takes up a lot of Manly's salary cap. He tried to give some of his salary back.
I think it's unfair on both of them to have someone comment like this. The ruthlessness of this, and the you can feel the frustration in this. This is a fan, all right, because Manly aren't winning, and probably the boys aren't playing to the best of their ability, or they're not playing every week at the moment, or the team's not playing to the best of their ability, and then you start relating money towards performance and all that sort of thing, and that's very, very unfair on the players. Manly wouldn't be where they are anywhere over the last few years without the Trbojevic brothers. That's just a fact. But there will come a time where they've got to make some decisions on it. Now, I think Tom's got plenty of football left in him. He's had some injury concerns over the last few years, and Tom himself is very conscious of the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football, and he's offered to take pay reductions. But under the system, you can't. You're not allowed to take pay reductions. The league don't allow it. The NRL doesn't allow it. Even if you wanted to give half his money back, the NRL doesn't allow it. So that's just the system we work under. But that'll even out in the wrong run. Tom needs a good productive off-season and come back. I'm sure Tom's got another 6 or 7 years in him. I got no risk in the world.
I know nothing about sports science, but he looks like he needs a break.
But he's had a
long off-season.
He's had a lot of long breaks,
Just to get it 100% right.
I'm not a medic. I'm not a medic at all right? I'm not a physiotherapist and I'm not a sports scientist at all, but you've been around them long enough to know. I don't think Tom needs any sort of break. I think he needs anything. I think he needs more. What he needs is more of it, not less.
Do you mean more rehab stuff, like to take the gameplay situation out of it, more work?
He needs harder work. Okay. He needs more hard work.
Yeah.
And I think what we're learning more and more is that players that have been susceptible to injury, that actually deloading them and trying to get them through with less load is actually detrimental to some of them. Not all of them, but to some of them. Mm. That's where you've got these really elite sports scientists who can do testing on them. And the answer is actually more play and more training. That's what they need. And previous thinking has probably been less play and less training to deload them and take the stress off them, rather than, no, you've got to train more and you've got to train harder. It's as simple as that. Now, I don't know Tom well enough to even comment on that, but Tom's had a run of injuries over the last few years and hasn't played enough football and hasn't had enough hard training. You can just see it. Mm. And probably every time he comes back, he's underprepared for coming back.
Is it trying to rush him back in?
Because he's trying to get back in. He wants to play and he wants to feel valuable. So Tom doesn't need time off.
I probably didn't say that well enough. Yeah. The time away from playing to focus on getting work and getting better.
Not even that much, but I think he's underprepared for the demands of the game. That's how he looks physically to me. He's underprepared for the demands of actually playing the game.
Yeah.
He can pass the fitness tests, but the big fitness test comes on Sunday afternoon under the heat of battle and what your opposition are doing to him. And what we've found is if you take it easy on your players in training, your opposition don't. Your opposition don't take it easy on them, right? Your opposition put them to the test. And you physically put to that test every week, and mentally you put to that test every week. And even more mentally if you're not physically 100%, or you've still got lingering doubts, or you've still got, you're playing and trying to pace your way through a contest or pace your way. You can't. You can't pace your way through the game. Not the way it's played these days. It's so explosive. You can't pace your way through the game. They are at full tilt the whole time they're out there. Mm. And there are so many stoppages in plays these days. There are so many stoppages that fatigue is not often a factor. It's the sheer physicality and the speed at which they play is completely different to the physicality and speed at which they train. And particularly if you've got someone that's susceptible to injury, the previous thinking is to deload him and not put him to that sort of stress. But that doesn't help him for game day. Mm-hmm. But don't ask my opinion for it. Talk to really good sports scientists with really good trainers. And, and when we talk about high performance people in clubs, they run the high performance program. Some of them have a strength and conditioning background. Some of them have a physiotherapy background. Some of them have a sports science background. And even those three, right, philosophies will disagree. Mm. They will disagree, or they will have contradictory views on how an injury or a player or a team should be trained. And as I say, we're dealing with 18-year-olds to 36-year-olds and players at different stages of their career and players with different physical makeups. And as you said, players that are less than 80 kilos and players that are 125 kilos. And they're playing in all different sort of weather conditions under different things. They get 5-day, 6-day, 7-day, 8-day, 12-day, 14-day, 3-week turnarounds, It's a minefield. And people don't appreciate just how hard that is and how difficult the scheduling makes it. So going back to Trbojevic, I think you're being far too harsh, and fans need to be a little bit more patient. And I just think that's no, I don't like the question.
You don't think Chris will be coming next week to our live show?
Well, you can if you like, but I don't.
Chris is frustrated, Gus.
And this is the sort of and this like multiply Chris by 10,000 is what people are posting on social media all day, every day, and what we're trying to keep our players off social media. And why we keep them off social media because fans talking about this, and some of them do it deliberately. Some of it's just abuse.
Can I change the pace?
Yeah, go on.
Chris wants to know if you have any funny stories about your old teammate, Cole Murphy.
Cole Murphy? No.
Oh.
No.
Not one?
I've got a stack of them.
Well, come on.
Right.
This is Ask Gus.
Cole Murphy, this is our Newtown days.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Cole Murphy was an outstanding junior player. He had a very bad knee injury when, surgeries for knee injuries weren't great. He had a long time out with a very bad knee injury. Back in the 70s and 80s, we never knew about ACLs. I often wondered if he had an ACL and was misdiagnosed. I don't know. But he had, back in those days, a cartilage operation could ruin your career. You used to have a big scar up the side of your leg. And he had a chronically bad knee with big scars on it. I remember it because when I first went to Newtown, he was a young fella just starting out there. But they always saw him as a future player. And he played plenty of first-grade football. No better trainer, no tougher man, no funnier bloke in the world.
I think that's why he's asked the question.
No better socialiser.
Is he the bloke that did the nicknames?
No.
No.
Oh, but he wasn't the one that gave all the nicknames, no. But a night out with Cole Murphy, you could guarantee a few things, one of which would be debarred from the venue that you'd been to. That would be one of the things you could guarantee, and you might need to go to 3 venues during the night if you wanted the full night out. But he was... uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable.
The ultimate entertainer. The ultimate entertainer, but the most passionate Newtown bloke you'll ever meet in your life. And a tough man. Tough man, but fun, madness, absolute madness. And how he got away with the stuff he did, I'll never know. I still laugh about it sometimes. Sometimes I'll drive past venues or pubs or wherever we've been. I'll remember a night when Cole Murphy was there. But mind you, we had rat bags everywhere. Like we had a dozen Cole Murphys. They all found each other.
I don't think we can publish some of those stories you're looking for, Chris. And a last one from James. Good question. Do the Raiders have to find an X factor to beat Melbourne or Penrith if they go on the big day?
They've got plenty of X factors. They don't need any more X factors.
I think maybe he's suggesting they need to play in a different manner. Do they have to find anything different?
No. All they will lack in the big games against those sides is the experience at that level, at that time of year. That's what they will lack. But, it's the first time for everything. They can't do any more than what they've done this year. They've got X factor from here to yin yang. Like they've got speed and they've got flair and they're a point scoring machine. They can score them in any number of different ways from any part on the field. I think that'll be it. It'll be how they handle the back-to-back games. Once they get to the finals, they're going to have to win 3 games to win the premiership.
Yep.
Hopefully they only play the 3 games.
Yep.
Right? But they're going to have to win 3 games, and they're going to have to play it against the best in the competition. And when you're talking teams like your Melbournes and your Panthers that have been so often there before, where it'll be a new experience for a lot of these Canberra players, they're the dangers. It's not the football that's the danger. There's the danger, the experience and the preparation and then coming off that game into the next one and to the one after that. And, if they win their first round, having a fortnight off, how they handle that, so.
Could not having been there before be an advantage?
Sometimes, absolutely, because you
just go out and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it can be fear of the unknown or it can be fear of the known.
I get the feeling this team isn't scared of anything.
I don't think so. And like Ricky Stewart's been down this path plenty of times before, but the Canberra Raiders have got the game to beat anyone. Really interesting this Friday night in Mudgee, how they go. They've had a fortnight off to get ready for the Panthers, who are coming off that game against Melbourne last week. And the Panthers are, they're tried and tested material, aren't they? They've been doing this for year after year after year after year, and the game is starting to get into finals football mode, certainly as we get down to the back end of August and into September, and there's none better at it than the Panthers and the Melbourne Storm. They're time-honoured. So that's the test for the Raiders. as to whether or not they can get their game on. They don't need to change their game as to whether or not they can get their game on and whether the Panthers and Melbourne allow them to do it and who probably dictates in those places. But so far as X Factor, they've got plenty of X Factor.
Speed, baby.
Yeah.
That was AskGus. Thanks to Tab. For the best time in sport, Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
The Ampol Power Surge, brought to you by Ampol, powering Australia's own sporting nation. And maybe a nice little segue, this, Gus. Your top 3 coaches of the year. Surely your man Ricky's in there.
The top 3 coaches of the year. I think Ricky Stewart's done an outstanding job. I think Cameron Ciraldo's done an outstanding job with the Bulldogs. Number 3, well, you look past the obvious. I mean, your Bellamy's and your Clearys and your Stewarts, and they've all still had great years. Who else? No,
I'll give you one.
I think Christian Wolf's done a great job with the Dolphins. I think
if the Roosters make the finals, it's one of Robinson's great achievements.
Yeah, he's had a great year. I think Benji Marshall's had a great year. Like at the start of the year, I said West Tigers would be top 8. And gee whiz, for a few results either here or there, they'd still be in the running for it. They're not, they're saying they're in it, but they're not. But they've shown their potential in the last couple of weeks and the last couple of wins that they've had, and it's building nicely for the future. I think there are a lot of contenders for who have had great years as coaches, but usually it's on the teams that didn't expect to do as well as what they did, and that's no one was predicting that the Canberra Raiders were going to be at the top of the tree. No one was really predicting the Bulldogs would be top 4 for most of the year. They've still got to get there yet, but no one was predicting that. And then a few that were written off earlier in the year, like your Roosters and those sort of teams have made comebacks. Panthers have won 4 in a row and went through a disastrous first half of the competition this year and may still win this competition again. I mean, that would be a coaching feat in itself as well. So plenty of contenders for that job. But I think right at the moment, the most unpredictable spot on the ladder is the Canberra Raiders, and they've done it extremely well. And for that, probably Ricky Stewart stands out as the number 1 choice. And we've been ecstatic with the job that Cameron Ciraldo's done, and he's done a job too, because I don't think anyone was predicting where the Bulldogs season would go. But plenty of other great coaching. But Bellamy, they're all there.
Billy Slater.
Billy Slater, Queensland, yep.
Won the unwinnable.
I don't know about unwinnable, but he won it. They're all winnable.
Well, he certainly proved that. That's the Ampol Power Surge. Thanks to Ampol. We'll have a look at what's a cracking round of games right after this.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, Vegas-flying, turbo try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
A reminder, our live show, 6 Tackles with Gus from Canterbury Leagues Club, 2 o'clock next Thursday, August 28. The venue, Gus, is the Terrace Room. We're in the Terrace Room.
Okay.
Is that a good spot?
Yep.
Excellent. Send your Ask Gus questions to 6tackles at 9.com.au. Put your phone number and your name there, and we'll get back to you if you have won a ticket to the day. It's all thanks to Tab. NRLW Round 8. Bulldogs Raiders at Belmore. 12:45. Titans Dragons up on the Gold Coast at 3:15. Then Parramatta versus the Roosters at Combank Stadium at 5:15. Then Sunday, Knights Broncos. Big game, that one, up in Newcastle. The Warriors play the Sharks in Waikato, and then the Tigers play the Cowboys at Leichhardt. That's after our 4 o'clock game on Sunday footy on 9. Round 25. A preview and the odds thanks to Tab. It all starts tomorrow night at a very wet Accor Stadium once again for a clash of rugby league's 2 most successful premiership winning clubs. The Rabbitohs up against the Dragons. Now, as I have a look through here, I can tell you that Cody Walker is on the bench again after making a comeback from injury last week. Keon Kaloamatangi has been named to return from an ankle injury as well. And for the Dragons, they've really been battered around Hamish Stewart, Jack DeBell and Hame Sele all out of the game. So Halangahu, one of these young gun players, is going to start in the back row. Ben Murdoch-Masilla, who's been used sparingly, comes into the back row as well. Blake Laurie's onto the bench. Tyrell Sloan's also on the bench after being 18th man last week. $1.77 favourite South, $2.05 outsiders, the Dragons.
Did I hear that Gutherson was in some sort of doubt? Or I heard that he was out for some time.
I didn't hear that this morning.
I was just surprised to see his name up there. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit of a different looking Dragon team, isn't it?
Well, they won't be winning without Gutho, I wouldn't have thought. I mean, you can see here that they've only named 21 players.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the white headgear.
The little fella. All right, Mudgee will be packed to capacity for the Ken Sutcliffe Cup as Roy Simmons concludes his amazing walk from Penrith to Mudgee, 6 o'clock. Friday evening. The Premiers, with Isaiah Yeo in 19 and looming large, maybe he comes back into the lineup, and the same 17 for Canberra who are fresh after a bye. Gus, I cannot believe the betting on this game. Penrith are $1.65, the Raiders are $2.25 outsiders.
I told you they'd start favourite in every game for the rest of the year. Every game they play, the Panthers will start favourite. That's just how they are at the moment. Their modus operandi is that when they name people on extended benches, particularly players like Asaya, they generally make their way into the starting lineup. So I've got no doubt Asaya will play. That would probably make way, I would think, for Matt Eisenhuth, Papali'i maybe back to the bench, or Garner back to the bench and Papali'i into the back row. But either way, doesn't really matter. They play the same number of minutes. This is a really interesting battle because you've got this Canberra Raiders, who are at the top of the premiership ladder and been sailing along all year, beating all comers and overcoming tremendous travel distances and all sorts of challenges, and they become a point-scoring weapon up against this Penrith team, who over the last 9 weeks have won 9 in a row, and then were probably very unlucky to lose against the premiership favourites, the Melbourne Storm, the other night, and they're so battle-hardened and they're so adept at football at this time of year and finals football and getting games won. Two different styles, two different coaches, two different courses to get here. One of them really under no pressure at this stage. The Raiders, they're in September and they're looking towards that and chances of winning a premiership, where the Panthers have been on this tightrope for so long, where they can't afford to lose, and they've been up to the challenge and could easily have beaten Melbourne the other night. On just sheer experience of big match football and the way football games are controlled, naturally I tend to favour the Panther model, but I'm really interested to see how this fresh Raiders team fares up there in the country environment at Mudgee on the weekend. I think this will be a tremendous, and I think every coach in the league will be watching this on Friday night to just learn and just see how both match up against each other. That was a tough, gruelling game the other night. Did we have the ball in play for 15 minutes?
13 minutes out of half time.
Yeah, incredible.
Never seen anything like that.
Incredible. That's taxing. And to be beaten the way they were in the last minute in extra point. But, they're hardened, seasoned professionals. Edwards, Tunglaw, Brian Nathan Cleary, Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, Liam Martin. These fellas are tried and tested performers.
Nothing wrong with the Raiders pack either, just quietly.
No, and they should be fresh.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's impossible to pick. I favour the Panther model, but I will have absolutely no surprise if the other side wins.
Can you believe the betting?
Yeah, I can. They'll start.
But that's short. $1.65.
Yeah, it is short. It is short. But I think if they played the game 5 times, Penrith would win 3 or 4.
Okay.
That's how I rate them. I think Penrith would win 3 or 4 times out of 5.
Okay.
So I'm not that worried about the price.
No, I looked at that when it came out. I thought, wow.
Yeah, but if this game starts off and Canberra get the early stages right and jump out to a 10, 12-point lead, they're going to be awfully hard to run down. I'm going to go Panther just on the shore of big match on the big match experience, but I'll be very interested to see how the Raiders go.
And they're outside the 4 at the moment after last weekend.
Yeah, well, they can finish on 37 points. If they finish on 37 points, chances are they'll make the 4. So they need to keep winning.
All right, Friday night footy down at Amy Park. The Storm up against the Bulldogs. I can't believe I'm heading to Melbourne to try and get some dry weather. Isn't that a turn up?
Yeah, although they're predicting a little bit of rain game day. So.
Oh, of course they are. So Pappy and Big Nelson are on the extended bench. Nelson's been there, he was certainly there last week and didn't play. He may well have been there the week before. Whether Pappenhausen comes in, not entirely sure. No changes to the Bulldogs team that has been named, but Satili Tupanua and Marcelo Montoya are on the extended bench. Gus, are they in the frame to play?
Well, they're training as we speak. They're
Good on.
over there at Belmont. I left the session early to come over here, and I guess we'll know more later this afternoon who's going to actually take the field. They're going to Melbourne today and try and get a dry captain's run tomorrow because everything's been affected by the wet up here. It's been hard for them. They really haven't had a productive training session for some weeks, but everyone's in the same boat in Sydney. No excuses there. Yeah.
They're laughing at us in Melbourne.
Big
laughing at the weather.
Yeah, well, the summer will come around. We'll change all that.
I hope so.
Sydney's the place to be.
All right, Melbourne $1.53, Bulldogs $2.50 outsiders. You'll see that on 9 from 7:30 and Friday night footy. Saturday 3 p.m. Well, look, Manly season's done really, which is a shame because they're up against the Dolphins who are fighting for survival themselves. So one team absolutely desperate here and the other one has been stung by a lot of quite sharp criticism throughout the week. $1.90 each of 2. Manly at home at 4 Pines, Brookvale. Ruben Garrick's gone for the year, so Talau into the starting lineup. Felice Kafusi and Francis Molo both come back for Christian Wolf's Dolphins, who currently sit in 9th position on 26 competition points with 10 wins. So they're a win away from the Roosters in 8th. So, look, if they lose here, they're done.
Yeah, I'm going to go... They confused me, the Dolphins. There was 14 all at halftime the other night against the Broncos, and they went bang, bang, 28-14, and were running away from them. 10 minutes later, and they're behind on the scoreboard.
It's bizarre.
And the week before, they got beaten by 60 by the Roosters.
No idea.
Couldn't hold their hands up in defence all night. Then defended well against the Broncos, and then didn't defend well against the Broncos. The Broncos just tore them apart. Yeah, I don't know how they bounce back from that. I'm going, well, Manly, gee whiz, they're out of sorts too, aren't they?
The other mob aren't going that good either.
To be honest, the 2 points is probably more important to the Dolphin than it is to Manly. I don't think Manly can make the 8. I think they're done. Yeah. Dolphin can, so the 2 points is more important to them. So on the sheer scale of importance of the game, I would have to say Dolphin hold the upper hand there. But them winning away from home at 4 Pines, I couldn't back them. I don't care what price they are.
I couldn't back them with Cam Smith's money.
He's got plenty. You can spare it.
No firm opinion, perhaps. Saturday, 5:30, up on the Gold Coast. Titans $2.40, Warriors $1.58. Warriors themselves have to keep winning. I can tell you that they have 3 key ins as well. Kurt Cakebull, Tamari Martin, Rocco Berry all return at the right time.
Yep, better looking team, and they did really well to fight last week. I mean, they were given enough excuses to lose last week to the Dragons, but they found a way to win. And again, the 2 points is far more important to them than it is to the Titans, who have been extremely disappointing, and last week against the Sharks failed to give a yelp. They didn't give a yelp. They were built handsomely on the scoreboard. I'm going to go with Warrior to win that.
Okay. Saturday, 7:30. This one's at Combank. Parramatta $3.40. The Roosters are $1.32. Isaiah Yongi has been named at fullback. He was a late inclusion in his return from a hand injury last week. Joash Papali lines up at 5/8, so he's made that change again. Daniel Tupou's out, so Junior Tupou comes in on the wing for the Roosters. And Siwa Wong's back from concussion as well.
Yeah, Junior Tupou was a mid-season transfer from the Dolphins.
He was. He's a big, strapping, hard ball running bloke, isn't he?
Yeah. He showed a lot of potential when he was at the Tigers. Not easy for the Roosters, but they've got too many points in them for the Eels, so the Roosters will win that one.
All right. 2 o'clock Sunday up in Newcastle. The Knights are $3.50. The Broncos are $1.30 for this clash in front of what no doubt will be a big crowd. Phoenix Crosland's playing hooker, having played lock for most of the year. And just the one change to the Brisbane team that stormed home to beat the Dolphins with Jack Gajeski out with a collarbone, replaced by Jaden Hunt, and Jesse Arthurs comes onto the bench.
Yeah, well, they've shown little, the Knights, haven't they? I can't see them matching the Broncos. Again, the 2 premiership points is far more valuable to the Broncos than it is to the Knights, and that should play out during the course of the afternoon. I think the Broncos will win handsomely.
And last but not least, our game on Sunday footy. Now, I know they're both out of the finals race, but this should be bloody entertaining, I reckon. The Tigers up against the Cowboys at Leichhardt Oval. Can you please give us some sun for Sunday at least? Because the hill needs to be full. Please give us some sun. They'll be slipping and sliding otherwise. No changes to either team. Tigers $1.70, Cowboys $2.15.
Yeah, Leichhardt Oval, Tigers, Sunday afternoon football, and they're in good form. They'll be winning that one.
Right up.
So, what have I gone for?
Rabbit.
I've gone for Rabbit to beat Dragon. Panther to beat Raider, but very interested in that one. I've gone for Dolphin to beat Seagull on the score of importance of the Vash. I've got Warriors. It's too important to them. They've got to beat the Titan. Roosters, it's too important to them. They've got to beat the Eel. The Bronco, it's too important for them. They've got to beat the Knight. And the Tigers and the Cowboys, the Tigers would love to keep their winning run going. It is Leichhardt Oval. They will beat the Cowboy.
Great work, Gus. Look forward to seeing you at Canterbury Leagues next week in front of our large contingent of fans. Do you know we have stubby holders to give away? We've got 6 tackles with Gus stubby holders being made up. Mm-hmm. This is becoming a movement.
Is it?
Yeah. You can have your Newtown of pale ale where you're cooking a barbie with your own stubby holder with your own head on it.
You know where I'm going now?
Where?
I'm going out to see my mother.
Oh yeah,
at Cobbity. She's 91 years of age, and we've just bought her a new mobile phone, and we've got the internet on at home.
Wow!
And we've bought her a new TV.
Do you need help putting it together?
Well, no, it's all installed. And my brother was there yesterday trying to help her, and then she's rung this morning. TV's not working. The phone's not working. So I've got to go out and try and explain the technology to my
This will be good.
mother.
This will be good.
The only mobile phone she had didn't work because she didn't have internet reception there. She kept telling me she was on the Wi-Fi. I said, "How do you know you're on Wi-Fi, Mum?" She said, "I got an NBN thing in the garage." I said, "Yeah, but it's not turned on." No, it is. 9 years I've been telling her she's not on the Wi-Fi. 9 years. So we finally got the watch. She didn't want us to do anything. So we've gone down and we've got her a new TV. So now she can't get it back onto. She can't get the channels right or something.
She loves watching the footy, doesn't she?
Watches every cricket match. Watches every footy match from around the world all the time.
Well, she needs a good television then.
Yeah.
Are you the right man to put this together for her?
Eh?
You the right man to put this together?
I'm not a technological whiz, but I'll try and get out and get the TV going.
All right. Well, good luck. See you next week. That's 6 tackles with Gus. Enjoy the footy, and we'll be back from Canterbury Leagues next week.